Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to an all-new edition of WAWR Radio Chats, guys. And again, we want to thank everyone that's joining us, who's joining us as a continuation of last night's efforts. Once again, because, I talk too much. And so we didn't get finished with last night's topics. But helping me on this in this AM edition of WAWR Radio Chats is going to be none other than Mr. IOTBA Karray Bradshaw. Karray, welcome to the show, brother.
Man, shout out to Joe, man. Shout out to WAWR Radio. Shout out to FightSaga. And shout out to everybody on here from that 214 to across the pond.
I tell you what, man. And once again, the topics that we didn't get to last night were Canelo. What's next for Canelo Alvarez? And why hasn't the Caleb Plant fight? Why is it a long shot? Why is it not being put together? Well, guys, we've been telling you for the last several months that this was going to happen. How are we able to prognosticate this? Well, we'll tell you. Also, Teofimo Lopez. Once again, anyone who's been listening to this show since April, we told you this was going to happen. We told everyone what was going to happen, okay? So we've been very clear on that. But, guys, we're going to start with something that we just found today. Karray asked me if I would actually bring this up, and this is regarding an article from a DAZN interview with Eddie Hearn, basically ridiculing Top Rank Team Tyson Fury, saying that ticket sales for Fury versus Wilder 3 on July 24th were disastrous. And once again, adding fuel into the bogus conspiracy theory that there is no coronavirus, there is no testing positive for COVID, that the real reason for them shutting this fight down and postponing it till October 9th was because tickets were terrible. Ticket sales were bad. And once again, this is just Eddie Hearn having some fun, guys. Right? I'm going to read you these quotes, and then we'll talk about it. Right? And I want to hear what you have to say, Mr. Bradshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Says Eddie Hearn on the DAZN boxing show with Frickin' Frack or whoever they are. I don't know their names. Quote, they sold no tickets. Basically, you could go online and check. I don't know whether it was 25% or 30% of the tickets who have been sold, but that was disastrous. There was no hype. This was going to do very, very poor pay-per-view numbers. He goes on to say, well, no, I guess that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. And once again, he's kind of smiling while he's saying this, right? Mm-hmm. On the DAZN boxing show. And dude, let me tell you, Hearn, when he's seeing all of these fan theories and fan sites, fan channels on, and I like to call them fan with microphones or fans with cameras on YouTube, because they're not in the business and they don't know anything about this. So Eddie Hearn is basically going off of what he's seeing on YouTube or what people have been telling him on social media, right? And he doesn't know anything about this. And so Eddie Hearn couldn't be happier. Because remember, this is a guy who was the bridesmaid left at the altar by both Bob Arum and Tyson Fury. They were supposed to be business partners for the most lucrative site fee in the history of sports. $150 million. And then all of a sudden, Deontay Wilder wins the arbitration, and Bob Arum says, oh, geez, we're sorry. Eddie, I don't know what happened. I guess we just lost the arbitration, so, well, we're going to have to be moving forward with the third fight. Eddie Hearn is still very, very disgruntled about this. Karray, your thoughts on, well, basically Eddie Hearn having some fun at the expense of Bob Arum?
And I agree. He playing, with the fandom, these fan channels who never been in the business, never covered anything. He playing along with it because he's still tight. He's
Yep.
still tight. He's still tight because he thought he had secured, like you stated, Joseph, the biggest site fee of all time, right? And he's still tight about that. So he want to try to play along with these false narratives, like this fight wasn't doing good. Everybody was talking about this fight. As a matter of
Yep.
fact, you mentioned yesterday on the show how someone referenced to where they never seen ticket sales. They didn't expect the ticket sales to be this high. They didn't expect the pay-per-view numbers, before the fight even happened, to be this high. So everything that was telling us about Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, it was trending. Eddie Hearn is playing a game, and salute to Eddie Hearn, because these is the type of tricks you play when you're other promoters. You play these type of tricks to try to feed it to the public, where the public could run with it, so they could bring more heat to the other party. But Eddie Hearn, stop it. You know damn well this was the biggest fight of the year. It's nowhere in hell that everybody and their mama was talking about this fight. Like, this is the fight that we was waiting for. Fury versus Wilder. This meant more than any fight of 2021, in my opinion.
Well, Karray, and once again, brother, you're a very smart boxing guy, but sometimes you do get caught up in the boxing community.
I do.
Because those are all your friends, those are all your colleagues, and you very seldom will talk to, in the course of a day, someone that is outside of that circle, right? Yeah. So, and I'm the same way, brother. I'm the same way, being in this business for forever, right? And so a lot of times we will think that something is trending and something is really a hot item right now. But outside of that boxing community, you hear crickets. And Eddie Hearn and a lot of people seem to think, well, that's the case with Wilder versus Fury 3. That outside of the diehard boxing community, that this fight isn't really creating very much buzz, right? This is, and once again, I'm going to read the quotes that you referred to yesterday from Bruce Trampler, Hall of Fame matchmaker. He had this to say. He said, quote, "Everyone is affected by this, least not the promoter who's laid out a lot of money so far. I can tell you, the fight was trending very well. The tickets were surprisingly good for this time of the year in a sweltering hot Las Vegas. Advanced sales were tremendous. And the advanced sales on digital pay-per-view subscriptions were way ahead of where we expected it would be. So when it was rescheduled, when it's rescheduled, we hope we can reach the same targets." End quote. That's what Bruce Trampler had to say. That all indications were very positive, with 2 weeks remaining before the fight. Guys, and make no mistake about this, okay? But to make no mistake about this, if it's not selling well now, you can postpone it to next year and it still won't sell, right? So why would they reschedule this and not try to get out of the fight? Once again, though, this was a huge concern. I will say this. This was a huge concern at the thought of making a third fight at the tail end of 2020. There was a huge concern that because of the nature and the one-sided nature of the second fight, that there wouldn't be any demand, that it wouldn't sell well. Keep in mind, guys, because of this huge purse, even with a $19 million gate, the second fight still lost money because of piracy issues and because of that mammoth purse. Guys, that was the real reason why Bob Arum and everyone involved were trying to look for a way out of this, because of the huge guaranteed purse for both fighters. And the fact that the first one lost money, and there was obviously a greater demand to see the second fight, right? The rematch. So this is the real reason why Team Fury and Top Rank, everyone involved, tried to make that unification, that undisputed fight with Anthony Joshua. But according to Bruce Trampler, Hall of Fame matchmaker for Top Rank,
who I believe,
tickets weren't bad at all. In fact, they said that they were ahead of their target for advanced digital pay-per-view sales. Right? Mm-hmm. So which one do you believe, Karray?
I believe Bruce, 100%. Like I said, I'm not going to believe Eddie Hearn, a guy who is tight. Like, I'd be tight too if I was Eddie Hearn. If I lost out on that, in my England voice, that massive deal that was on the table, you know, I'd be tight too. But I believe Bruce. One thing about Top Rank, they have showed us nothing, but they're trying to produce. And, you know, Top Rank ain't going to come out and say some trending if it's not. Look how Bob Arum came out and said Terrence Crawford can't sell.
That's a very good point, so, brother.
Look, I agree. I believe Bruce 100% when he come out and say this. Look, you preach this to me, Joe. Bob Arum too old to be playing games right now.
That's right. He's got no filter. God bless him. You know, that is an excellent point, man. He is incapable. Like, and once again, there are only 3 types of people on this earth who are incapable of lying at this point, right? And those are kids who haven't learned to lie yet, people who are inebriated, and people who are so old that they forget they don't have the energy to lie, right? And that's Bob Arum at this point. 89-year-old Bob Arum has no filter. Boy, he's going to give it to you Florida style, man. He is going to slap you sideways with the truth. Unfortunately, that poor old guy, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it's time for him to hand the reins over to his son-in-law, Todd DeBuff. That might be what's best. Or you know what? Just because I tell you what, God love Bob, but yeah, man, I think he's getting a little screwy there, Karray. And yeah, you make a good point. He's incapable of, well, fudging the truth, right?
Yeah, he don't got time for that, Joe. This is a 90-year-old man who done did extraordinary things in boxing. I want everybody to really listen. He do not have time for that. You know, and God blessed his soul that he's still on this earth. But the average age isn't 90 that everyone's going to live to. That's not the average age.
Oh boy,
that people live to. So, but
yeah,
God,
unfortunately, you know, Don Chargan, the guy whose namesake is on this show, right? Warwick Chargan, Don Warwick Chargan. He didn't live to see 90. So. Yeah,
and that's
you're absolutely right.
So with Bob Arum being 90 years old, he don't got no time to play games. And this guy is really trying to put on the biggest matchups that make sense because at this age, you know, it's all about doing what's best for him. You know, he done seen what's best for the fans, the real bosses of boxing. I apologize about that.
So I guess to sum it up, right? Eddie Hearn, boy, he's just having fun right now. Just laughing his ass off at this latest development and this 6'10" headache that seems to be named Tyson Fury. Boy, how is this story going to end? Well, guys, we'll continue reporting on this as it develops. But guys, let's move on. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is Karray. You ready for this one, man?
Man, let's go.
Okay, well, will Canelo Alvarez, if you had to take a guess, who would you guess? And we're going to read quotes from everyone. Eddie Hearn, Demetrius Andrade, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. Will Canelo Alvarez, if you had to guess, September 9th or the 18th, if you had to guess, who would Canelo Alvarez be fighting on that date? Caleb Plant, Dmitri Bivol, Triple G, or Arthur Beterbiev?
If I had to guess, I would think it would be Triple G. Well, I just know this. It'll be Triple G, Bivol, or Beterbiev. Caleb Plant, he's nowhere on the radar of me thinking that undisputed matchup will happen next. I just don't see it. But I think it'll be Triple G before either of them other dudes, because I don't know if Canelo ready to just make that move to 175 yet. So I'll say Triple G makes the most sense if the Caleb Plant fight, out of them names you mentioned, isn't made.
You know what? That is an excellent guess. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and double down on that because, well, and guys, if you're a little unclear as to why he is not going to be facing Caleb Plant, barring some kind of miracle, right? Well, we've been telling you this for the last several months that, hey, guys, it's going to take an act of God for Caleb Plant to actually fight on DAZN in a one-off against Canelo Alvarez. Guys, we've been telling you this is going to happen. And here's the reason why. Because Al Haymon, it has to make sense for him to put forth a cross-promotional effort. Guys, look what's happened with the Deontay Wilder episode. This was his biggest earner, right? This was his biggest earner. And he got his ass whooped February 20th. February 24th, 2020. He hasn't fought since. It's been painstaking trying to make the trilogy fight happen. And once again, this wasn't going to happen without Haymon putting together a 2-fight deal. Once again, for Haymon, all of this has to make sense. He uses the same tactics that the mob used to use back in the 40s and 50s, where if you want to fight with the champ, you're going to have to give him options on your next 3 or 4 fights. That's the way he rolls. And he's not the only promoter to do it. Okay, Don King's done it. Bob Arum's done it. Oscar De La Hoya, when he had Richard Schaefer, did it. Main Events has done it. Kathy Duva, Lou Duva, Dino Duva, all of them. Look, everyone's done this. This is something that the mob started doing back in the 30s and 40s when they ran the sport and had all of the title holders. And this is the way Al Haymon rolls. Okay, so let me tell you what's going to happen, guys. And unfortunately, anyone who's looking forward to seeing Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez, well, this is what it's going to have to take. It's going to have to take Caleb Plant standing up to Al Haymon, saying, look, Al, I really, this is the biggest, this is life-changing money. This is a career high payday of at least $8 to $10 million. I would have to fight 4 or 5 times to equal that amount of money just fighting PBC opponents. So, Al, I don't care what you want. I'm going to fight in a one-off on DAZN against Canelo Alvarez because I'm a free agent and I can do that. That's what would have to happen, guys, and it's not going to happen because this is what Al Haymon would say. Al Haymon would say, okay, you're absolutely right. You're the boss. Technically, I work for you. I'm your advisor. So you go ahead and compete. Put your IBF 168-pound title on the line, and you fight in a one-off without any kind of security or any kind of rematch clause. Go ahead and do it, buddy. Get your career high payday. But when you come back, if you don't win, boy, you're going to be sitting on the shelf until our contract runs out because I have no use for you. If you don't have that title around your waist, you're not a big ticket seller. You're not a big ratings draw. And without that belt, you offer very little to me. So go ahead and do what Canelo wants, not what your boy Al Haymon wants. And if you lose, well, you're going to be sitting on the shelf for the next 2 years until our contract runs out. So, Caleb, which one are you going to choose? Are you going to allow? So this is exactly what's going to happen. And Caleb Plant, because Haymon, well, once again, has overpaid him in previous spots. He's setting him an IRA account. He's setting him up investments, right? He's setting him up for retirement. And this is one of the main reasons why PBC fighters do not go against the grain and consistently will do Al Heyman's bidding. Because, and this is every single PBC fighter insists to me. One, they tell me Al is a man of his word. Whatever he says he's going to get, he does it. Whenever he says he's going to do something, he does it. And two, this is the most important one, PBC fighters will insist to me, boy, Al Heyman, he cares about us. He cares about our life after boxing. He's not just using us as pawns. He is setting up investment accounts, IRA accounts. He's making sure that we'll never have to work a day in our lives after our tenure of the sport is over. So the chances of Caleb Plant going against what Al Heyman wants is slim to none. And once again, we told everyone that this has to make sense for Al Heyman. He is not going to let his lone title holder of 168 pounds fight on a rival network in a one-off. Okay, in order for Canelo Alvarez to get this fight, he's going to have to get options on his next 3 fights. We're going to have to sign you to a multi-fight deal. We'll guarantee you that we'll pay you $30 million per fight or $25 million per fight, but you've got to sign a 3-fight deal competing on Fox. Well, Canelo Alvarez is going to be like, well, you know what? I just got out of a promotional agreement because I don't want to be tied down to any one promoter or any one network. I want to be able to jump around and be a free agent and fight whomever I want, when I want, for how much I want. I'm the cash cow. I'm the ticket seller. I'm the main attraction. I'm the one who's going to dictate terms, not anyone else. So Al Heyman is here saying, okay, well, we'll get you this fight, but you have to do this. And Canelo's like, brother, I don't have to do a damn thing. Okay, here's the way it is. Let me just tell you the way it really is, Al. Either you want the fight or you don't. Take it or leave it. Because if you think that I need Caleb Plant, well, you've got another thing coming. Last time I checked, I was the biggest attraction in boxing in North America. I'm the one who sets the terms, not Al Heyman. Brother, I don't need you to sell tickets. I don't need you to promote any one of my events. I prefer working with Eddie Hearn. And guess what? I can put up great numbers and sell out arenas without Caleb Plant. So you better get used to this idea. If you want the fight, then take it. If you don't, we're going to move on, but don't waste our time. Your final thoughts, Karray, before we move forward in, well, using deductive reasoning to figure out who the next opponent's going to be.
Yeah, and one thing I can say about Al Heyman, you know, I can't knock him because he's not the first promoter to make fighters, oh, if you want to fight on this, you have to do this, you have to do that. So I can't knock him for that. But what I will knock Al Heyman for is if he let his ego be the best of him, right? Because you're supposed to be looking out for your fighters, right? I understand that you're setting them up in retirement and whoop-de-whoop this and whoop-de-whoop that. But when you got Caleb Plant, like Joseph mentioned, he got the chance to make $6 to $8 million. That it's going to take him 5 fights, 5 or 6, 7 fights to make that much compared to one. That is absolutely disgusting to me as an organization, right? So like I said, I can't knock Al Heyman for doing the business thing to try to do that. But when you're dealing with the creme de la creme, and when I say the creme de la creme, I'm talking about the top dog of boxing in Canelo that dictates everything.
Yep.
You can't play that. You can't play them type of games, Al, because you're barking up the wrong tree.
You know what? Very well said, brother. And it's funny. And let's check this out. Look at these series of comments while I was going on my diatribe, right? While I was basically telling people the way it is. And look, I already know this to be true because I know a lot of PBC fighters, and I've been in this business for 20 years. So Ray Green, in his infinite wisdom, oh man, Joe and IOTBA always hating on PBC. Joe, stop lying. Okay, all right. Joe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, brother. Well, tell me where I'm wrong in my assessment, Ray Green. Seriously, be a man, brother. Show me where I'm wrong. Where was I lying? Where was I lying? Because I know this probably a lot better than you do, my friend. So once again, if you're man enough, tell me where I'm lying. Something tells me I'm not going to hear another peep. Okay, let's see this. Here it is. Everything you said, fool. Okay. Everything I said. Well, that narrows it down. Boy, thanks for your input on this show, Ray. Boy, I tell you what, I hope to have your kind of intellect on future episodes to share that kind of insight. Everything I said. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today, Ray. Next time you have anything a little more intelligent to add, please let me know, man. I'll be more than happy to showcase it on the show. Jingow. Oh, and here comes another one. You're going to love this one, Craig. PBC is the greatest. Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. Someone who is incapable of critical thinking, and he is just a mere cheerleader for a single platform. Ray, you know what? I don't even think you're a real fan of boxing, are you? I don't even think you're a real fan of boxing, are you? You're just a fan of PBC and those platforms that they actually showcase their fighters on, aren't you? You probably have a ton of disdain and don't even understand why. You probably have a ton of disdain for Bob Arum, Top Rank, and really can't even tell me why. Oh, okay, well, here he goes. Check this one out. You're going to love this one, Karray. Bomb Squad. All right. Well, we've had some fun at your expense, Ray, and that's enough of that because, yeah. This is, look. I'm always hating on the King Wilder. Okay, brother, that's enough. So now, kid, silence, because it's time to let the adults speak. We're going to have an intellectual conversation on who's next for Canelo Alvarez. Thanks for playing, brother. So this is what Eddie Hearn had to say, right? Just to support everything that I've been telling you guys for months, what was going to happen. This is what Eddie Hearn had to say. Quote, Al Heyman doesn't really want to give up Caleb Plant, to Canelo Alvarez. I didn't know that. Well, I'm presuming, I think that's pretty obvious. Like if you've got a belt and a piece of that 168-pound division, really, he'll want to use that almost as bait to bring Canelo in and sign a 5 or 6 fight deal because he knows how bad Canelo wants to be undisputed. But it comes down to the fighter that, the fighters, they trust their advisors they treat. Maybe they've got a better plan. But where I'm looking at it, there's a huge amount of money on the table for Caleb Plant to fight Alvarez in September. But ultimately, it's up to Caleb Plant. If he really wants to create his own legacy, if a fighter really believes he can win, then he's got to be the guy that stands up and says, I'm sorry, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this is my moment, and I believe I can beat Canelo. End quote. Exactly what we just said. Isn't it correct?
Yeah, no, right? I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that 100%. It's like you have to look at fighters. Like if people around the world don't understand how lonely boxing is, you never been in the gym, never talked to these guys, you never understand like how lonely the sport of boxing is. And when you make it to the pinnacle, I'm going to keep preaching this, when you make it to the pinnacle, how Caleb Plant did, where he has a chance to fight for more money that could take care of his family's family, $6 to $8 million. This is where he has to stick his chest out to Al Heyman and say, no, I'm going to do this. And let me holler at this Ray Green dude real quick. He talking about you're never intellectual. Well, what intellectual thing have you stated to us, Ray Green, instead of the bomb squad? Look, this the same guy. This the same guy, Joe, who talking about we hating on the King Wilder. Oh, so you look at another man as your king. Okay, buddy. So we know that you have a P as a brain. To look at you called another man king. And then he said, I got Joe upset. No, you don't have Joe upset. He just dissecting you like the frog you is that we used to dissect in class growing up. And he gonna talk about you can't take criticism back on criticism. What criticism is you giving? You never gave one intellectual point. So that's the thing about you fans who never been in the sport of boxing, never been in the business of boxing and don't understand. You dudes just talk out the side of your ass and you don't, and it's nothing but crap come out your mouth. You don't understand the ins and outs of boxing. When you're talking to a guy like Joseph Herron, who has 20 years in this business, who done been around so many top fighters, interviewed so many great legends, how dare an idiotic fan like you get on here and try to say some of the horrific things you were saying. Then you talking about bomb squad. What the hell is a bomb squad? The nerve of these fans though, like, it's like, come on now. If you're gonna come with facts, come with facts.
It's so funny though. And this is what I was kind of mentioning on last night's show, Karray, right? Because and just speaking with different fighters, trainers, just guys in the business, back when, before the advent of social media, right? Fans used to be very respectful, and they would actually see trainers and various guys in the business, and they would be very respectful and happy to see them. And it was a real joy to talk to fans. Nowadays, dude, these fans, they don't know shit from Shinola, and they'll actually think that they know more than a Hall of Fame fighter or a Hall of Fame trainer or someone who's been in the business for decades. Like, and I understand why, because in their mind, right, in their little mind, they truly believe that they're an expert in the sport of boxing when it comes to the sport of boxing. You know, and because it's become such a niche pastime in America, that compared to their next door neighbor, I'm sure they genuinely believe that they're an expert in boxing. But look, unless you've actually been in this business or have learned from the great men who made this sport great, son, you don't know half of shit. I mean, you really don't know half. I mean, you think you know more than you do. Look, I can guarantee.
He said, "I know more."
No. Let me finish, Karray. Let me finish. Ray, I can almost guarantee you that everything that you know in your small mind, I can look up on BoxRec, or I can find in some article written by Steve Kim or Kevin Iole, right? But what you don't have is any real boxing knowledge. And that you only get by being in the trenches, being in this business, being around fighters, being around trainers, being in the gyms, working with a promoter. All right? Okay, everything that you know, I can look it up immediately on BoxRec. Okay, you don't have any real boxing knowledge, so sit down, boy, and shut your mouth. And maybe you'll actually gain some real boxing knowledge by listening to someone who's been in this sport for decades. All right? So anytime you want to go one-on-one, and not on this show, okay, anytime you want to go one-on-one, because we've got a show to finish, and I've got to go do an interview with Jermell Charlo, okay? So while you're sitting at home, hey, I'll be thinking of you, man, while I'm interviewing my boy Jermell, right? He's got a big fight coming up on Saturday, and I've got an interview to do in a couple of hours.
Yeah, that's what. Did you just hear what he said, you idiot, Ray Green? He got a fucking interview with Jermell Charlo coming up.
All right, So let's.
What you doing? What you doing in about 2 hours?
Oh, dude, he's gonna ask his mom to make him some Eggo waffles. So let's move on, guys. So here we go. You ready? Demetrius Andrade. And I really feel bad for this guy. It's absolutely criminal, right? So let's do everyone a favor right now. And let's put user in timeout, right? Let's block him for 5 minutes so we can actually move on with the show. This, what do they call him anyway? He's a wilderette, right? So what are they called? LD. What are they called? The LGBTQ? Are they the alphabet people?
Yeah.
No, seriously. Yeah, LGBTQ. Is he one of those guys?
Yeah, he one of them.
Okay. Okay. Well, have fun with that, man. Whatever that gets you. Jeez. You know what? It's like they're delusional, man. And they talk about old media. Oh, man, these old media, they're racist. Oh, my gosh. It's like, dude, they sound almost delusional as those weirdos, man, who stormed the Capitol building in January. Dude, that's how weird these guys sound. Like, what planet are they living in? Like, they're living in fantasy land. They actually think that they're media members because they're fans with a camera, fans with a phone. I'm like, dude, have you ever written an article in your life? It's like, do you even know how to write? Dude, has anyone ever paid you? Has anyone ever paid you to hear your opinion of the sport? Has anyone ever paid to hear your opinion? Has anyone ever paid you to sit ringside so you can actually give your assessment, right? In these fights. Has anyone ever paid you to do that? No? Well, then shut the hell up. What's the matter with you? It's like these fans, dude. They think they're experts. Like they think they're on equal sledding. It's hilarious, man. Like I'll tell you something, a funny story. About 2 months ago, Buddy McGirt, right? He told me this. Buddy McGirt said, you know what, Joseph? I don't even talk to fans, right? I don't even talk to fans anymore. I used to love talking to fans. Like, and then for some, I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the way, they started trying to argue with me and stand me up like they actually knew more than I do about boxing. And he's like, man, it's like you hate to try and remind people or have to remind people that you're not only a Hall of Fame fighter, but you're going to be in the Hall of Fame as a trainer as well, and you work with the best fighters in boxing. Even though you have that on your resume, fans to this day will sit there and try to argue with you.
To this day.
Stop it. Oh my gosh. But no, it's like, dude, trainers, fighters, that's why no one likes talking to fans anymore. That's why fighters don't like talking to fans anymore. And the only guys like your king, Deontay Wilder, that they'll talk to are people who blow smoke up their ass or give them a reach around after doing it. Right? That's it. People who put on the chapstick, man, and kiss their ass. Those are the only people that they'll talk to. And anyway, man, it's like fans have become like, and this here's the worst part. You want to hear the worst part about this? Guys like Ray Green, even though they're the loudest, most obnoxious fans in boxing or in sports, right? They are not financially supporting boxing any longer. They don't buy the pay-per-views. Statistics have already shown this. They're not purchasing these events. They're streaming them all illegally. So let me ask you something, Karray, and this is a serious question. Do these guys have a valid voice any longer if they're not supporting their beloved boxing anymore financially? Does anyone give a shit what they have to say anymore?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, that just solves it. So I'm going to block now our brother Ray Green. Nice knowing you. Thanks for playing. All right, so now we can move on with the program, right? So,
Shout out to Scale Bender. I see you in the building, Scale Bender. What's up, bro?
there's our brother Scale Bender. How you doing, my friend? No, we know Scale Bender. He's a good fan. He's a respectful fan. And he's capable of critical thinking. And he also currently supports our beloved boxing financially, right? So once again, guys, give me your prognostications. What Repit thinks Bivol is going to get the assignment, and you know what? That's not a bad guess because he currently, competes under the Matchroom Sport banner. He is currently that's an easy fight to make. He is currently the Super WBA 175-pound champion, and he's currently an Eddie Hearn fighter. That's not a bad guess, is it? And he's currently off the schedule. He needs a fight. Karray, how much would you be willing to put down to say that Bivol gets the next assignment?
I'm not willing to put down nothing. Because I just don't think it's him. Because I don't think that Canelo Alvarez is ready to take that leap to 175. Not yet. Eventually he will. But I think right now it's other guys like Boo Boo who can move up, Boo Boo Andrade who can move up. FightSaga
and once again, and Demetrius Andrade just found out the hard way, right? That's not how you go about getting fights, right? By storming someone at their press conference, talking a bunch of jive, talking bad about someone. That's not how you get a fight, guys. And once again, people who aren't in the business and haven't been around fighters, they don't understand that for all intents and purposes, the bad blood, yeah, that's for social media. That's for the fans. But in reality, they're business partners. Okay? Let me ask you something, Karray. Shannon Briggs, for all of his BS and his buffoonery, was he ever able to land that big money fight with Vladimir Klitschko by terrorizing him across the world, across the globe?
Not one time. Only thing it did was make headlines. He was never able to secure that fight. Not one time. He just made headlines. That's it. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ.
That's right.
No fight,
and he fight. Still, to this day, he still wears that stupid cap, that stupid shirt that says "Let's go, champ." But never got him anything except a couple radio spots and a couple of interviews. But it never got him that big money fight. And why? Because that's not how you get big money fights. That's not how you get fights. Okay? What you're going to do then is piss off the breadwinner, and he's going to say, you know what? I don't like that guy. Screw him. I do not want to make that guy $1 million. Or I don't want to make that guy $5 million. I don't like him. So I'm going to pick anyone but him. So what are the chances now of Demetrius Andrade actually getting that assignment against Canelo?
I think it's a chance, but like I just think at the end of the day, like business sense, I think Triple G is the better option for Canelo to take right now for them to get their third fight. Because, a lot of people look at their first fight with Triple G and Canelo, and a lot of people had Triple G as the winner. And I did too. I had Canelo convincingly winning the second fight. I give him that. Just by name-wise, entertainment-wise, it's going to bring a big buzz. It's going to bring a big audience. And one thing we all love is trilogies, even though Triple G is an older fighter now. I just think that's the fight that makes more sense. That's just my opinion, though. I could be wrong. I just don't think Canelo's going to go up and fight Bivol yet when he has so many options, from fighters at 160 who can move up to 168, fighters that's even at 168 right now.
Well, look, even when you consider, right, even when you look at Caleb Plant, you look at Demetrius Andrade, you look at all of his options in and around the 168-pound weight division, right? And I know this guy, his stock has diminished considerably, right? And he is 39 years old, and he's definitely not the attraction that he once was 3 or 4 years ago, right? But Gennady Golovkin still has that name still has more clout, and he's still a bigger attraction than any other fighter he could be facing at this time. Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, Jermall Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Artur Beterbiev, Dmitri Bivol, anyone. Gennady Golovkin is still brings more to the table financially. And in my opinion, I think you're absolutely right, Karray. I think that's the fight that DAZN wants. And that's the one that makes the most sense financially as well as strategically in the ring. As much of a badass as Gennady Golovkin actually is, and as much trouble as Gennady Golovkin gave Canelo in both fights, he's 39 now. Mm-hmm. He's 39 years old now. If I'm Canelo Alvarez, and once again, Canelo is a much improved fighter moving up and competing at 168 pounds. He's in his fighting prime right now. If I'm Canelo Alvarez, I'm jumping all over the Gennady Golovkin fight. And I'm making that Triple G for September 9th or September 11th, September 18th. Your final thoughts on this before we start talking about Teofimo Lopez, brother?
Well, I just want to agree with you 100%. And another reason why it makes sense in September the 9th or September the 18th is because not only is Canelo a Mexican fighter, but they call Triple G Mexican style. You know, yep. So that's just the icing on the cake for me right there.
Yep. I tell you what, Plant, if he's a smart guy, right? If he's smart, man, take the opportunity to be great. You know what? Remind Al Heyman. Say, hey, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. You work for me, buddy. Not the other way around. Okay? Get me that fight. I don't care if I have to go fight on DAZN. I don't care if I have to, for a $10 million payday, even if it's $8 million, that's life-changing money for me and my family. Get me that fight.
How can you turn it down?
You know, dude, and once again, it only makes sense in the glorious universe of PBC. Good Lord. So anyway, man, it doesn't make sense to any real fans of the sport. Like, once again, we'll go back to Chump Change, man, who was on the show or espousing rubbish on this comments, right? Like, how was I criticizing Al Heyman and PBC? Was I actually criticizing them, or was I just telling it how it is? Because I don't remember saying anything. I don't remember saying anything derogatory.
No, that's one thing I got to give you, Joe. You fair all across the board, but you know how them PBC cook like fans are. You know, if you give Al Heyman any type of criticism that's deservingly so, they're going to come up with these crazy things that they say. So you know how that goes.
Well, I tell you what. I will never understand that. Once again, either you're a fan of boxing, okay, and it's a very different thing. If you're a real fan of boxing, you appreciate when promoters, no matter what platform they're actually competing on, when they put together a great matchup for the fans, you recognize it and you appreciate it, right? That's what real fans do, mm-hmm. And they'll support it. Regardless of promoter, regardless of network, they'll promote it, and they'll appreciate it, and they'll enjoy it. But some of these guys aren't real boxing fans. They're guys who just support a specific fighter or a specific group of fighters. And it's like, yeah, can we call them at the end of the day? Can we call them real boxing fans? I don't think so. Wait, what is this all about, Mr. IOTBA? Check this out, bro. What is this about?
It's an inside joke.
Sounds like a drug deal gone bad, brother. You in front of shit, please. Chinga.
So that's shout out to my guy Scale Bender. Scale Bender, you freaking awesome, bro. You awesome, my guy. Like Joe, that's an inside joke on my live we had the other night. They got
I always enjoy chopping it up with Scale Bender. He's a good fan, right? He's a very knowledgeable fan.
Scale Bender. Yeah, it didn't have nothing to do with me and Scale. It didn't have nothing to do with me and Scale Bender. It was some other people on the show. So
all right.
Funny.
Well, I tell you what. Thanks for joining us, though, Scale Bender. Let's move on from that. Let's read one last comment, right? And this is from Ali Burgess. PBC forcing Plant to take care of Benavidez and Charlo over his family. No big payday for Plant unless Canelo signs a 3-fight contract to get Benavidez and Charlo a big payday. Yeah, it's obvious that Al has an agenda, and he doesn't want to veer from that agenda. Yeah, that's pretty obvious to anyone who is looking at this without any kind of slant or lens or bias, right? It's pretty obvious. It has to make sense for Al Heyman in order for him to work with other promoters, right? It has to make business sense for them. It has to be worth the risk, right? And I think we all realize that at this point. It has to be worth the risk. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comment. So let's move on, guys. And once again, here's another one we told you about several months ago. Back when, Teofimo Lopez and a lot of Top Rank detractors were basically calling Top Rank and Bob Arum cheapskates, dinosaurs, the minor leagues of boxing, right? Back when they had that purse bid and Triller won the purse bid, forking or promising to pay over $6 million. And once again, the only thing they're out right now is the 10% deposit to make that bid, right? So the only thing that Triller is out at this point, and unless you've been in the business, most people don't realize this, the only thing they're out is the $600,000, 10% of their purse bid that's non-refundable, right? In order to compete in a purse bid. That's all they're out right now. They can walk away from this because it's become abundantly clear to anyone who's been watching this unfold that Teofimo and his manager, David McWatters, are huge pains in the ass. So here's the latest development, guys. Triller has shown desire to push Lopez Kambosos back to October 17th and move the fight to Australia. Well, according to David McWatter, Lopez's manager, he says, you know what? If they want to go along with this, we're going to vacate the title and we're not going to be held responsible. And we're not going to be tied to George Kambosos Jr. any longer. We'll be happier then to vacate the title and move on from this mess. Well, it wasn't a mess until your boy thought he was too good to fight the co-main event of Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. Now think about this. Think about this, right? This is why Triller originally wanted to pay $6 million for this event. They wanted to try and attract some diehard boxing fans, the diehard boxing community, to their Triller event, right? They wanted to make the best of both worlds. And they originally paid $6.1 million for that matchup. Way overpaid for Lopez versus Kambosos. And they wanted it to be co-main event for Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. What did Teofimo Lopez, what was his response? No. Hell no. I will never be co-main event for a YouTuber. Okay, well, several months later, how's that looking now? How's that looking now, Ray? I mean, think about this. Think about this. And once again, back then, we said it was a terrible idea. Like, this is exactly what he wants. He's going to fight. He's going to be then competing. If he accepted that co-main event offer, right? He would have been fighting in front of millions of mainstream, a completely different audience would have been exposed to his brand of explosive Teofimo Lopez power. And it would have catapulted his career into something maybe special. Now, how's his career looking now, brother?
It's looking real crazy. It's just looking up in the air. You know, I think that was a very foolish, decision. It's like the pride and ego of these dudes, right? Like, let's look at Teofimo Lopez, right? Teofimo Lopez beat Vasily Lomachenko on regular ESPN. Vasily Lomachenko was a superstar who everybody knew him, but we never seen Bob Arum never put Vasily Lomachenko on pay-per-view, right? So all of a sudden, Teofimo, you beat him, a guy who's never been on pay-per-view. Now you think you're a pay-per-view star. And for Teofimo to turn down the opportunity because this was a YouTube guy who had millions, and I mean millions of fans who knew him more than they knew Teofimo, that just show you the ego of these fighters. And look where his ego have gotten Teofimo. And for this guy, right, to say, no, I'm not going to Australia, when you could put more fans in Australia than you will have over here coming to watch y'all fight, that's ridiculous to me. See, now it's turning.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir. I can hear you now,
so
sir.
It's not about Teofimo Lopez is trying to make it about him. So it's not about the sport of boxing no more. Because he showed us that it was not.
Well, and more importantly, he doesn't respect the process. Look, there's a process, and Top Rank are the very best in boxing. And once again, their track record, proves this, supports this. The two best matchmakers in boxing, Bruce Trampler, Brad Goodman, they're the very best at cultivating and nurturing the future stars of the sport. They've been doing it for decades, right? And they were doing this with Teofimo Lopez. Again, he was on the fast track for stardom. And they're like, all right, kid, well, we're gonna get you this. You're gonna defend your title against George Kambosos, because the IBF, they're always sticklers, they're always first. And then we'll look for other big money assignments after this. Possibly a rematch with Lomachenko, possibly a bid fight with Devin Haney, whomever. Possibly another unification at 140 pounds against Josh Taylor. How would you like that? Well, this kid seems to think that, well, he's worth a lot more than he actually is. Keep in mind, he's never headlined an event before where his name is on the marquee. He's never had to sell tickets. He's always been on everyone's undercard. Before COVID, his last big event was co-main event against Richard Comey on the undercard of Terrence Crawford versus Igas Kavalyaskes at Madison Square Garden. The big ticket seller was Terrence Crawford. And apparently, it wasn't that big. They only sold 11,000 tickets, right? He has yet to prove that he can sell tickets. So this guy was trying to actually shake down Top Rank Boxing. Top Rank Inc. for $5 million per fight. And they're like, Junior, you don't realize this. Your market value isn't based on your accomplishments in the ring, but your ability to sell tickets and draw ratings. That's the way the business is run. That's the way it's always been run. That's the way it's always going to be run. Brother, you're not LeBron James. Just because you put up great numbers, that's not it's like, look, in any other sport, right? You put up great career high numbers in the offseason, they're going to reward you with a big money contract.
Yep.
That's not the way it is in boxing. Look how many pound for pound fighters are still not making life-changing money in this business. At one point in time, Guillermo Rigondeaux was considered one of the top 3 pound for pound fighters in boxing. You tell me if he ever made life-changing money in the sport of boxing.
And you know another thing about Teofimo Joe, he's a guy who always be in front of the camera. I be trying to tell these other fighters, it's not about the money. It's about the legacy. You fight the fights, the money will come. Well, Teofimo, you sound like a hypocrite, because if it wasn't about the money, you wouldn't try to force this on the fans to buy you versus Kambosos, respectful. And this was respect to Kambosos, who nobody in North America knew about but the diehard boxing fans. And you try to give us this, but you try to be preach and talk about, oh, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. Because if you fight, the money's gonna come. Really? Come on, bro.
Okay. So Skellbender has a very good point, right? He says this whole burst bid thing was to teach Arum a lesson. I'd say class is over. Let's wrap it up. Get your ass back on the boat and stay seated. Okay, and that is hilarious right there. That makes me laugh. Because let's look at this, and he's absolutely right. The whole purse bid thing was to try and teach Bob Arum a lesson. You got a punk ass kid who's 20-0, right? Trying to teach a Hall of Fame promoter a lesson in the business of boxing. The arrogance. I mean, I don't even know where to begin tearing that one apart. That takes some stones or a huge level of ignorance, right? Like, you're going to teach Bob Arum a lesson in the business of boxing? Look, this is a guy who started the career of Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather. This is a guy who promoted Muhammad Ali. This is a guy who's had a hand in most of the great matchups that we've seen over the past 40 years. And Teofimo Lopez is going to teach him a lesson.
Like, wow. You say this 20-some-year-old punk-ass kid, you don't hear him talk about, oh, it's a, like, he talk about the business like he know the business better than Bob Arum.
Oh, my gosh.
Really? Like, this dude, like, I be seeing him on these interviews. Teofimo be on there talking like he know the business better than Bob Arum. Like, I tell you, the arrogance of these new era-ass fighters. This is why...
But Karray, it's the takeover, man.
Man, say, you know, Joe, it's like the arrogance. But the arrogance of these new era ass fighters.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Like, it's respect to all these fighters, because when, like I say, I'm not discrediting these fighters. Getting that championship belt around your waist, that's a hard thing to do, because millions of people dream to become champions. But just because you get that belt around your waist the first time doesn't mean that you captivate yourself and you this big star that everybody from wherever you at to across the pond know about you. And Teofimo, he made a bad chess move. He made a terribly bad chess move. And if I'm Thriller, I get out this fight, because if this punk ass kid don't want to come over here, see that, like I tell everybody, this is not the American Championship boxing. This is world championship boxing. So as a world champion, you should be willing to go anywhere and fight. And going to Australia to fight in front of 40,000 fans is bigger than anything that he could produce over here. Joseph, can you get that scenario you said you was telling me about going over there fighting in front of like real fans over there?
Oh, yeah, Triller, they're interested in taking this over to Australia because they understand this is a huge mainstream event in Australia. Like over here in America, this is a lukewarm, and Bob Arum was right when assessing the market value of this matchup. He was like, Teofimo, this is not a marquee matchup. You know, this is a lukewarm matchup at best. And he's absolutely right. And he was willing to pay. Now, he wasn't even willing to pay $3 million for this matchup. But in Australia, this is a huge fight, possibly in front of 40 or 50,000 people. This is a huge opportunity. So Triller's looking at this and they're like, you know what? We could make a music festival out of this in front of 40, 50,000 fans. We could introduce a lot of young fighters who are currently not signed with any promotional group. We could introduce them to a new audience. This is a great opportunity for us. And Teofimo Lopez, once again, is being an ass, being a huge pain in the arse. This guy needs to really understand that you can't just beat your chest and think that you're a star. It doesn't happen that way. Who determines if a fighter is a star? Karray?
The real bosses of boxing?
That's right. That's absolutely right. No, it doesn't happen before that. Guys, the fans, the real bosses of boxing have to deem you a superstar or a big attraction or a big ticket seller before you become one. Right?
And Joe,
it doesn't happen any other way. Oh, wait, hold on, real quick. Scalebetter says overbid, they haven't paid anything yet. Well, actually, they had to come up with 10% of their purse bid, and that's non-refundable. So the only thing they're out is $600,000. If you bid, you have to put down 10%, right? And the IBF keeps that. That's non-refundable.
And you know what, Joe, just looking on that, because even if, just say Teofimo drop his belt, right? Kambosos is a huge star in Australia. Like, he's the biggest fighter in Australia. Like, he's a huge. So if they was to do that IBF fight over there in Australia, it'll still do massive numbers.
Well, no. The biggest star in Australia right now is Tim Tszyu. That's
I'm just saying, like, okay, well, like, Kambosos is one of the biggest. He probably number 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he is. He is in the top 5. Yeah, and look, it's him fighting for the biggest part of this, and the reason why it's such a huge attraction. It's George Kambosos fighting to become the first Australian to become an undisputed lightweight world champion in the history of Australian boxing. The very first undisputed world champion.
Hey, Joe, I know we talking about Teofimo. You see that B boxers?
Let's see. Thank you for joining us. Well, hold on. Shout out to our brother, Brandon Fairley. Thank you.
Brandon Fairley, what's up, my guy?
And thank you, Boxer Mr. for joining us. Canelo's not jumping over to Al Heyman for 3-fight deal because he feels trapped every time he deals multiple fight contracts. He knows a 1-fight deal is the way to go. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, but here's where some fighters get it wrong. Look, it only benefits a fighter to be a free agent, okay, when you are a huge attraction and can deal with the networks directly, okay, unless you can get your own TV dates. You need to work with a major promoter. Like, let's say, for instance, right now, a man without a home is Bill Haney and Devin Haney. How's that looking for him right now?
Bad.
Okay, and why? Wait, he's got his own promotional license, right? Well, guess what?
He's not a huge attraction in boxing.
Unless you're a big ticket seller and can get your own TV dates. That's the ticket, right? Manny Pacquiao, a legend of the sport, huge attraction. He can be a free agent and be successful. Canelo Alvarez, he's a huge attraction, the biggest attraction currently in North America. He can work directly with anyone and get his own TV date. Devin Haney, boy, he's still starting out in this business, son. You need to work with an influential promoter who has plenty of TV dates and plenty of opponents in your same division. And this is going to seem completely contradictory to what Bill Haney wants or has said in the past, but it would be in his best interest to sign with Top Rank. When you look at the competition in and around 35, all of the badasses who are going to be moving up from 30, all of the badasses are going to move in from 35 to 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could stay busy for the next 3 or 4 years if he signed with Top Rank.
And I agree with you 100%, Joe. And I go like this. And then we'll see who Devin Haney really is. When this kid say, oh, he want this money and all this money, if you go to Top Rank and you beat all them guys and all them guys coming up from what, think about the potential matchup, Oscar Valdez, Jamel Herring, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, off the muscle, all them guys right there. If Devin Haney could get through that gauntlet, then he'll show he is who he said he was. So Top Rank it's a no-brainer. If I'm there, it's a no-brainer to go sign with Top Rank. No-brainer.
Yep, that's right. I mean, look, you're going to have to earn your bones, right? You're going to have to, but you always do in this business. Look, man, boxing is a brutal, ass-beating business. I don't care who you think you are. You're going to have to earn your keep eventually. I don't care if you think you're a rock star, you think you're the next big star of boxing. Brother, to earn your bones in this business, you're going to have to fight. And you're going to have to fight the best available in order to become that next big star of boxing. Okay, you're not going to win it. You're not going to get that at point. Okay, now I'm going to be throwing stones and taking a big stab at somebody. Because I'm going to say you're not going to get to that point by fighting a guy like Mario Barrios. And I like Mario Barrios, good fighter, undefeated. That had the heart of a warrior. And it produced one of the best fights of the year up to this point. But no one knows who the hell Mario Barrios is. Look, I can tell you this. I'm from San Antonio. And I can tell you, when Jesse James Leija walks down the street, everyone knows who he is. Mm-hmm. He's a celebrity in San Antonio, right? When Mario Barrios walks down the street,
it's another regular guy.
Dude, no one knows who he is. He just looks like some tall, skinny Mexicano. Like, hey, man, didn't I see you at the Santikos Theater the other day? Like, dude, hey, didn't I just see you at the 7-Eleven yesterday? Like, this tells you, right, that one, the WBA arugula belt means very little to the mainstream and casual audience. And two, albeit they're good fighters and tough guys, you're not going to get to that next level fighting at that level. Fighting guys like Mario Barrios, right? And once again, so in this business, you're going to have to earn your bones the hard way.
That's right.
I don't care who you are. I don't care who your promoter is. I don't care what network you fight on. There's no other way to do it. You got to earn your bones the hard way. Look at history. Hold on. Here's one more comment, Karray, from Boxer. He said, if you were in Plant's shoes, what would you do? We talked about this earlier in the show. Karray,
Now, go recap what would you do real quick, Joe. Just recap what you would do real quick if you was in Plant shoes.
Okay, if I were in Plant shoes, I would say, you know what, Al? I appreciate everything you've done and all the opportunities that you've given me up to this point, but I'm sorry. This is my opportunity to be great. To be the man, you've got to beat the man in this sport. And right now, Canelo is the man. And if I want to become the biggest star of boxing, I've got to beat the biggest star of boxing. This is life-changing money for me and my family. So not you, not anyone are going to stand in the way of that. And I'm sorry to be pulling rank on you, Al, but you're my advisor. You work for me. I want that fight, and I'm going to get that fight. I don't care. Look, and if I lose, fine.
Oh, well, so be it.
If I lose, and if you decide to put me on the shelf because you're mad at me for the next 2 years, fine. I'll be enjoying my $10 million for those next 2 years.
Hey, and I'll be like, so be it.
That's what I would do.
I'm with you too, and I'll just answer that real quick. So be it. I will sever them ties. I'm willing to ruin that relationship because it ain't gonna be no guy in Al Heyman who has millions. I mean millions of dollars. Tell me to not to take the biggest payday of my life, right? No, there's no way he will be able to tell me that. And to go back on what you was discussing about Top Rank and Devin Haney, like Devin Haney. Like, this is the moment in your life, right? If we hear you talking, we hear you saying that you want this and you want that. What better opportunity to say you want this and you want that than to come to Top Rank? Because think about it, Joe. You hear a lot of these guys talking about, Terrence Crawford, he not on PBC. He need to come to PBC and fight. Well, Devin Haney, I'm going to say it like this. If you want these fights and you want to come this superstar that you want to be, you need to go to Top Rank. And if he don't go to Top Rank, this will be a foolish move. And this will show you why boxing is the way it is right now, because these guys think they're bigger than the sport and don't want to actually go where it's best for them to bring them to that superstardom.
Well, yeah, I mean, what people have to do, like, they have to stop listening to the fanagers and guys who really don't know feces about this business, right? Stop listening to those guys, because too many fighters will listen to, and it's funny, Don Chargan had a name for guys like that. He used to call them urban advisors, guys who talk a good game and give fighters ultimately terrible advice because they don't know shit about the business, right? Mm-hmm. Fighters need to stop listening to those guys, because those guys will insist to Bill and Devin Haney, oh, you don't want to go with Top Rank, man. They're racist. Oh, they're a bunch of racists and they're cheapskates. And you want to sign with Al Heyman and go with PBC. Well, once again, here's what's going to determine who you sign with, right? This is always the case right out of the amateurs. And a perfect example of this, what is his name? Who's the guy who, well, anyway, I'll let me move on from that. Here's a perfect example, right? Right out of the amateurs, you look for the promoter with the most TV dates, mm-hmm. the most money per year from the network that they get. Mm-hmm. You look for who has the most quality opposition in my respective weight division. You look for those things when you're looking to sign with a promoter. Okay? Yep. And everything else doesn't matter. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. So Devin Haney, okay, you look at PBC, well, they've got a ton of TV dates. How's the quality of opposition at 35, 30, and 40? Well, there's Tank Davis, and there are a lot of up-and-coming fighters, but there's no one who's really going to be at my level who's going to make me that kind of money. Okay, the obvious choice here for Devin Haney is Top Rank.
Because he already been on the zone, and we seen the zone could make the fights for him.
That's and it's the same thing with Demetrius Andrade. Like I really feel for those guys because they're not big attractions. They're largely considered by their constituents or their colleagues, I should say. They're largely considered to be more risk than reward. Now, in the business of boxing, there is no such thing as ducking, guys. And this is one thing I can't stand from fans that they consistently use this term. Ducking realistically does not exist in the business of boxing. All of these guys, in their minds, they can beat anyone in their division on any given day, or else they would not be in this sport.
That's true.
But risk versus reward is indeed a very real thing. And that's almost always is a product of their management or their promoter and has very little to do with the fighter. What I want to know is, go ahead,
One more quick thing.
Yep.
Just when you're speaking on signing with the promoter and who has the most TV dates, we seen one of the greatest in our era, and Floyd Mayweather, when he was still at the top of his game, when Shakur Stevenson was fighting in the Olympics. He said, I came here for one reason and one reason only. That's Shakur Stevenson. Guess what Shakur Stevenson went? To Top Rank. Perfect
That's
example.
Right. Here's another example of not signing with him. Balderas, a guy who just signed with Top Rank and is going to be competing on the fight card that you're going to be covering in Tulsa on August 14th, right? That's going to be Balderas' debut under the Top Rank and ESPN banner, right? But here's a guy right out of the Olympics, showed a lot of promise. Who did he sign with?
PBC,
he
right?
Signed with Richard Schaefer and Ringstar Promotions. Like, dude, hey, man, how many TV dates did Richard Schaefer have? Okay, so any young fighter who's looking to sign with any kind of promoter and you have any kind of juice, right? You can compete on that level. You've got that skill set. Always look and see how many TV dates that promoter has. How many dates, how many events do they schedule per year? Right? Because look at Golden Boy right now. They don't have very many TV dates right now, but you look at them a year ago, boy, they had 36 they had 36 on DAZN. They had a ton of TV dates. Now, I guarantee you, they've got a roster full of fighters that are regretting signing with Oscar De La Hoya. It's all about TV dates in this business, guys. That's who you sign with. That's who you work for or work with if you're a young fighter. Which promoter has the most TV dates and which has the most competition in my respective weight division? So I guarantee you, Balderas' career from this point forward, working with the best matchmakers in the business, Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler, boy, you're going to start to see some things from this kid. And I'm really looking forward to your assessment of Balderas on August 14th in Tulsa, my brother.
Oh, yeah, me too. I can't wait to go to Topeka, Oklahoma. I can't wait to go up there to the Hard Rock to cover that fight. Shout out to FightSaga for getting me up there to cover that fight. And this is another thing right here. Boy, Joseph, you just spoke gospel. You know, I hope all you young fighters out here take what Joseph Herron said. You make sure you look at the TV dates. You make sure you look at the rosters. Don't matter because of the appeal. You think Shakur Stevenson gave a damn about the appeal of Floyd Mayweather just because he was Floyd? Shakur Stevenson and his team, they did their homework. They looked at this roster. They looked at the TV. They looked at and seen what they were going to be able to do. So all you young fighters out there, do that. Don't get yourself caught up like a guy that we spoke on last night in Sean Porter. You spoke this, Joseph, earlier in his career.
Signed with a terrible small regional promoter in the Ohio area. Terrible decision.
So that's gospel you speaking, and I hope every young fighter take that in. Please, if you're a young fighter, take that in. Don't just let the appeal of whoever you think it is. Let the appeal of everything that circulate around it, from the TV dates to the roster of if you're in 126, or just say you in 130. Look at the competition at 135 and 140 to see the future matchups that possibly could be there. Take all that into context before y'all make y'all decision.
So with that said, Karray, and very well said, brother, but with that said, what should Teofimo Lopez do at this point? Should he honor that purse bid? Should he respect the fact that Triller wanted to invest that kind of money in him and go through with that fight in Australia? Or should he vacate the title and move on and just put this experience behind him? What would you do if you're Teofimo Lopez, brother?
Teofimo is a world champion. If I'm Teofimo Lopez, right? Teofimo, you always talking about making the best business decisions to set yourself up. Fighters take this punishment. Y'all put y'all life on the line. Well, this will be the best business decision for you to go to Australia in front of 40,000 people. That's going to be a huge event over there compared to over here in North America. So in my humble opinion, and I hope somebody could knock on that rock head of Teofimo to get him to take this fight in Australia, because you're not the American champion. You are a world champion. And I truly feel as a world champion, you should travel all over the world and fight. I'm not saying you have to do it all the time, but this is your moment to travel over the world and fight. And this makes the best business sense.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, very well said, brother. This is a huge fight in Australia and a lukewarm matchup in America. And when you think about, this is what I can't understand why David McWater, Teofimo's manager, has such a problem with this. Because going and competing in Australia was the original plan for Top Rank. They knew that this fight was so much bigger down under. And it was, well, a lukewarm matchup at best in America. This was their original plan. And they said, you know what, Teofimo, if we go fight down under, we could possibly get you up to maybe $5 million, because it's such a huge fight with the live gate, with TV rights, with the licensing fees. We could get you probably about $5 million. Well, when COVID hit and they saw the travel restrictions in Australia at the time. Well, Top Rank, they said, well, that's no longer an option. So your fight now in America, well, we're willing to pay you your guaranteed minimum, which is just under $2 million. Teofimo and his manager got pissed. So I don't understand why they're so against to traveling to Australia for this fight when that was Top Rank's vision originally. That was their plan for this matchup originally. So why do they have a problem with this now?
I have no idea. It's the arrogance, the ego. You know, this show you were ego. And I can't lie to y'all. Everybody have ego. You know, I have this video I'm going to drop on my channel real soon about ego, how I had an ego and how I let a situation get the best of me without, you know, taking a look at it and handling it a different way. We all have egos. And it's when you could check that ego, put that ego in check and understand that you had an ego, then everything will be better. And I hope that's what Teofimo do, because Joe, people hear you going at Teofimo right now on factual stuff, but they didn't hear you on previous videos we made who you say Teofimo is that next superstar. You really feel he could be that next superstar?
Oh yeah, in my humble opinion, when you look at his attributes, his physical and mental attributes, physically and mentally durable, power, speed, explosive speed and power, God-given brilliant reflexes. This guy has some of the best radar in boxing. His speed, his reflexes, his agility, his ring IQ. This guy has what it takes. He's got all of the physical and mental attributes to be the next Floyd Mayweather Jr. in this sport. And if he listens to the very smart people around him, currently trying to guide his career in the right direction, he could possibly get there, right? If the right matchups and the right decisions are made. But right now, he's acting like a complete ass. Scalebender writes this: T.O. and Triller should both cut the feces and move on. The $4 million they overbid isn't hiding over in Australia. And based on my comment, his business radar is broken. Unfortunately, Scalebender, that is a tale, well, that's told way too often in this business. Fighters will listen to the wrong people. They won't listen to the very smart promoters, matchmakers, managers, executives around them. They'll decide to listen to their friends or people merely blowing smoke up their ass. And once again, in this business, there's a name for that. Go ahead, sir. Let's see. Let's do.
Yeah.
Our friend Brandon Fairley says, Bob, the only promoter I see who lets his fighters fight on other platforms, to be honest. There's a reason why, Brandon, and thank you for your comment, brother. You're right on the money. Look, there's a reason why Bob is in the IBHOF in Canastota. He's in the Hall of Fame because he has a proven track record of putting ill feelings aside and working with everyone in the business to bring the fans the best product. He's got a proven track record of this. Just look at him this year. He's working with Al Heyman to try and put together a fight that no one wants to see. Wilder versus Fury 3. I'm sorry. Boxing diehards really want to see this come to its natural conclusion, but I don't know if there are too many mainstream and casuals who are interested in this fight. But once again, just look down. Like, there are so many times, and to be honest with you, and he's told me this, right? Bob Arum has told me, oh, you know what? I can't stand Don King. You know what? I could always work with him if it was a great matchup that the real bosses of boxing wanted to see. We'd always have to bury the hatchet and work together. But to this day, I can't stand Don King. He told me this. But Brandon's absolutely right. Bob Arum is the only promoter in boxing that has that ability to bury the hatchet. And if the business is right, if the numbers are favorable, and if the fans demand the matchup, he will work with any other promoter in boxing. And yes, he's in the Hall of Fame for that reason, right? But Karray, do you have any parting shots for our listening audience? It's already afternoon, brother. I've got to get going, man.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Are you there, sir?
I'm here. I just want to shout out to everybody on here from that. Can you hear me, Joe?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Well,
yes, sir.
Shout out to everybody on here from that 214 to across the pond. Shout out to my guy Joseph Herron, WAWR Radio. I hope everybody subscribe to this channel, man. You ain't gonna get nothing but facts. You ain't gonna get nothing but knowledge, and you ain't gonna get nothing but the truth. And I don't know if y'all know how I say truth, but that's TRUF, truth. So make sure y'all please subscribe to WAWR a Week Radio, because we spit nothing but facts on here.
God bless you, Karray. Thank you for your time this afternoon, brother. We appreciate it, man. Guys, and that's going to just about do it. On behalf of Karray Bradshaw, I am Joseph Herron. You guys have been listening to WAWR Radio Network. Have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon, everybody.